everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Jo's Journey to Medicine. As you can see from behind me, I have my Christmas tree up, which means it's Christmas time. Today is the 28th of December, and so although theoretically Christmas has passed, we're all still in the Christmas spirit, and we're in that very odd week between Christmas Day and New Year's where we all don't really know what to do with ourselves. We're eating, watching too much TV and films, and thinking that we should be productive when in reality that's just not going to happen. So, Merry Christmas to you all and have a great New Year. Now, a lot of you who will be watching this video will have interviews in January, February, and so firstly, to all of you who have received interviews, congratulations. You've done so well to get to where you are. It's taken a lot of work, a lot of perseverance, and you should be really proud that you have gotten an interview. To those of you who haven't heard back yet or who have had rejections, don't lose hope. If you haven't heard back yet, there's still plenty of time to hear back from the universities to see if they've given you an interview. If you have had rejections, then okay, yes, you're going to feel pretty terrible to start with. I have definitely been there. I only got one offer for medicine at Warwick, so I know how it feels when you get rejections, and it really sucks. But again, don't lose hope. You can apply next year. You might have other universities you haven't heard from who might still give you offers. It might take you an extra year, but in that year you can do so much stuff. So this video, as you might have guessed, is going to be all about interviews. I'm at the University of Warwick, and unfortunately I can't give you any specific advice to Warwick. It's just something that it's not allowed, and it wouldn't be fair. If I was to tell you all the stations that I got, then it might put people at a disadvantage. It wouldn't be fair. So that's why I can't tell you specific advice to Warwick, but I can give you general interview advice that you can use for your medicine interviews in general. And also I think a lot of this advice can be used for general interviews for jobs or for volunteering or just general life skill to have. So for me, the key resource that I used when preparing for interviews was the Get Into Medical School by ISC book for interviews. So for me, I basically just worked through the book. It had lots of questions, it had lots of information on how to answer the questions as well. So for example, for some of the ethical debate questions, it gave you advice on how to structure your answer. So you might have why you agree with it, why you disagree with it, and then where you stand on it, for example. Obviously, the internet is a great resource. There are hundreds and hundreds of questions online that you can find of sample questions for interviews that you can use to go through, practice answering, think about how you would answer those questions if you were asked them at an interview. When it comes to practicing questions, there are multiple ways you can do so. Personally, I did a mixture, so some of the time I just thought in my head about how I would answer the questions. Sometimes I would type or write out answers to questions. So for questions such as why do you want to be a doctor, I actually planned out an answer that I knew I could answer if I was asked that at an interview. The best way of practicing for interviews is being asked them in person. Mock interviews are amazing. However, I understand that sometimes when you have such a short time between being given the date for your interview and the actual interview, it can be difficult to get somebody to actually give you mock interviews. So I appreciate the struggle, and this for me is when friends and family really come in helpful. I would give my mum a list of questions, and then I would get her to ask me those questions and I would answer them. So it's pretty much a mock interview. I wouldn't tell her which questions to give me. She'd pick them from a A4 page filled with questions. So that's really, really good practice. It's also really good to practice with people that you don't know that well. So I was actually really fortunate in that I actually have opportunities to meet a wide variety of people from different backgrounds, and they were all so friendly, and they said, would you like me to practice asking you some questions for your interview, or would you like to do a mock interview? So for me that was really beneficial, and again, I know that not everyone has that opportunity, and so I'm very grateful that I was able to do that. But anyone can help you. You can have mum, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents. Chances are at around this time of year you're going to be around a lot of family and friends, and they are going to be more than delighted that you have got an interview and will be more than willing to help you do what they can to help you practice answering interview style questions. Something else that I did that was really useful in my preparation was I actually read Tomorrow's Doctors online. Now, I appreciate that it can be quite a lengthy document, and I'm not saying I read it from cover to cover, but it was really useful. The bits that I found particularly useful were the sections where it lists all the characteristics of future medical students or medical students, where it'll have things like good teamwork, good communication, good organisation skills, good leadership, empathy, things like that. And I actually got a list of the different characteristics that they expect of medical students, and I thought back to all my work experience and volunteering placements and my work as a healthcare assistant, and I thought to myself, what examples can I give where I have shown that I have good leadership qualities? What have I done that shows that I have good empathy? So for me, for leadership, it wasn't actually related to being in a hospital or anything exactly related to medicine. It was when I was the leader of an orchestra when I was at school. Now, I appreciate that was 3 years before I applied, and although there is a 2-year limit usually on work experience for the form that you can submit, there is no limit for the number of years that it has been since you showed leadership qualities. So you can do things from when you were on a volunteering placement when you were 16 for your graduate medicine interview. They don't mind. When it came to teamwork, for example, I had a much more recent example of when I was a student technology ambassador during my first degree, and I had to work with about 5 to 6 other people in order to ensure lectures were recorded. So that was a much more recent example that I could have used in interviews had I had been asked that question. So I appreciate that I've spoken a lot about the preparation for the interview and not necessarily about the interview itself. Now, obviously, with interviews, most of your success from an interview will come from how you prepared for it, how much you've done, how well, how efficient your preparation has been. But obviously, a proportion of it will come from your performance on the day. A key piece of advice that I always give people when they have an interview approaching, whether that be for medicine, for a job, for a university space, for anything, I always say, at the end of the day, an interview is nothing to be scared of. Yes, there might be a lot riding on the interview itself, but at the end of the day, all you are really doing is speaking to another human being about something that you really want to do, hopefully. I know that interviews in general can be really intimidating, and there are times that when you walk in the room and you sit down, you don't know what to say. You get like a complete mental block and you're lost for words, literally. But you really don't need to be frightened. They are just human beings. They probably really want you to do well in that interview. They are most likely rooting for you inside themselves, even if they are not necessarily showing that to you in person. If you imagine your parents, for example, introduce you to somebody they know from work and they say, "Oh, I hear you're going to study medicine." The questions that you will be speaking to them about are probably very similar to questions that you'll be asked in an interview. They'll say, "Oh, what made you decide to do medicine?" Your answer is basically going to be very similar to the answer that you're going to give an interviewer for a medicine interview as to why do you want to be a doctor. The questions are so similar and you don't need to be afraid. But as I said, practice and mock interviews with parents or anyone you can get will really help you overcome that feeling of fright. Another thing that's really important when it comes to interview day is what you wear. Now, I appreciate that this is somewhat of a superficial thing, and what you see on the outside isn't necessarily what's on the inside, or how intelligent you are, or representative of who you are as a person. But Presentation in medicine is really important. Even as medical students ourselves, we get quite strict guidelines on what we can and can't wear when we're in the community, when we're on placements, when we're in the hospital. So this is where presentation is really important. For men, I suggest you wear just a suit. It's in January, so I guess you could wear a jumper if you wanted to, but generally buildings are warm enough, so you shouldn't need a jumper. So a suit with a tie, a nice smart blazer and some smart suit trousers and some nice shoes. For women and clothing, I fully know your struggle of knowing what to wear, what you can and can't wear. Just go with smart. I would again go with a suit. It can be a trouser suit or a skirt and a blazer. I highly recommend blazers, by the way. You can take it off if you feel too hot, but it's better to bring one and wear one just in case. Try not to show too much skin, so you don't want to wear anything too low, which I'd hope is quite obvious. And with skirts, should be a knee-length skirt. You can't actually see what I'm doing right now, but I'm pointing to my knee. So knee-length or maybe just above the knee, but nothing too short. And you probably want to wear tights. It's winter anyway, so you're probably going to wear tights anyway. But I personally hold the view that if you're wearing black tights, it looks smarter than if you're not wearing tights. But that's just personal opinion. Also, if you're going to ever get a suit tailored or made to fit you, or just make it fit nicely on you, this is going to be the time. Medicine interviews could determine your future at the end of the day, and you want to feel the part and look the part. So make sure your trousers are the right length. You don't want to be tripping over your trousers as you walk in any interview rooms. So yeah, just generally, smart is the best way forward. Another thing for men, you probably don't want to wear too much cologne or too much aftershave. Women, again, you don't want to wear too much perfume. You don't want it to be overbearing, that's all the examiner can think about. You want them to think about you and what you are saying. In the same respect, you don't want to be wearing too much makeup. You can wear makeup. I'm not saying you shouldn't wear any makeup at all. I'm just saying maybe keep quite a natural look, or maybe not really bright red lipstick. Accessories, I wouldn't wear too many bracelets or multiple necklaces or have lots of studs in your ears. I'd have maybe one pair of earrings in. Studded is probably better. For jewellery, you can wear a necklace. Might even want to wear a bracelet and a ring or two. But again, you don't want to wear too much. If you're wearing a rattly bracelet, it might be a little bit distracting, both for you and for the examiner. Also, when it comes to accessories, when you're in a hospital environment or a clinical environment, you're not going to be allowed to be wearing bracelets, watches, dangly necklaces or really long earrings or things like that. You have to keep it professional but also hygienic. And at the end of the day, professionalism is what they are looking for, and not just in interviews but also when you are in medical school itself. On the day itself, you are going to want to arrive with plenty of time to spare. Don't take anything for granted. If you're allowing time for traffic, leave double the time that you normally would. Aim to arrive at least 45 minutes before the interview time, at least. Personally, I arrived, I think it was about an hour and a half early for my interview. I only live 45 minutes away from Warwick University itself, so when I arrived for my interview an hour and a half early, I was relaxed, I was calm, I could go over some last minute questions, refresh my memory, and just generally stay calm and compose myself before the interview. So I know I've given lots of tips on how to prepare, how I prepared the interview day and arriving early and things like that. But a key thing about interviews is that they want to see you for who you are. They don't want to see a fake version of you. They want to see your personality. They want to see how you act, how you present yourself. They want to see you, and that's really important. Just be yourself. That's all you need to do. And that's why you don't need to be scared of interviews, because you are just being yourself. I wish you all the very best of luck for your interviews. I am sure you will all do amazingly. If you have any questions about general interview tips, then please feel free to message me either on Instagram, on Twitter, or you can leave a comment down below. As I said at the start, you have all worked so hard to get to where you are right now, to have an interview. You've done the UK CAT, you've done A-levels, you've done a university degree, you might have even done a master's or a PhD, you've probably been working, volunteering. You have done so much to get to where you are. You should be so proud of yourselves. I wish you all the very best of luck for your interviews. As I said, you will all do amazingly. Good luck. Bye!